and all of a sudden your drone took off and it crashed into a crowd of people or into a car or something, now you're talking some serious infractions, and then they are going to probably give you a good fine and or confiscate the drone. It's they don't really want to mess around with this. They want to make sure that you're flying correctly, you're flying within the rules, and not just skirting them. That's where, like, if you go in and you take that trust test, that's the first basic rules of understanding that, okay, if I'm going to be responsible for flying this drone, this is what I need to adhere to. If you want to deviate from that, you do so at your own risk, I guess.
Well, the problem seems to be that they're making it so difficult to find places to fly that either you don't fly or you know.
You're not wrong on that, but you're interacting not just with yourself up there, but making sure that other aircraft that might be in the area, and you need to be aware of where they're at, if they can come in or not, and they have the right of way. Any manned aircraft has the right of way, so you got to come down. I've got an app on my phone that shows me where every airplane in the country that's either a commercial or flying under a flight plan shows where they're at any given time. But that still doesn't take care of every aircraft, because there might be military aircraft or something else that might be flying that aren't broadcasting a signal. So there's more up there than you think. It's all about safety.
I completely understand that with respect to flying around airports and flying around other aircraft. What I'm talking about is places like open space and state parks. And
yep, and I agree with that. And you're right. They just want to make it plain hard. And the state of Wisconsin is a lot more difficult with that than a lot of other states. Why, I don't know, but they are. And you know what? It is what it is. So whether we like it or not, those are the rules.
So if we get fined for flying in a state park, is it the FAA that's fining us or the park itself?
The FAA has the ultimate authority. However, they're ceding some of that authority to local authorities. So it could be up to them. It could be up to the FAA or both, depending on what happens.
What's wrong?
Really, you had to go in here.
Oh.
It's okay.
Yeah, it is a frustrating thing, Ron. I agree. Like I say, I've been trying to shoot that one barn, and the guy that runs it, and what I found out from the state DNR was it's actually up to the individual unit manager to be able to okay that or not. So I contacted that gentleman directly, and his response was, well, this is what the state says, so no, you can't.
Wow.
Even though it's up to him to say, oh, yeah, I understand where you're at, and you can, you can do that, but he won't do it.
Well, I've been following a guy in downtown Milwaukee that's been posting some pictures on Instagram from a drone, some really nice pictures of the city looking from out on Lake Michigan. And so I've been thinking that I'd be surprised if he's in a legal zone to fly. I was wondering if he maybe has a commercial license or.
So he might have his Part 107 certificate. The rules are a little different for that, but actually they're more stringent if you do have a 107 than they are if you're a commercial flyer or you're a recreational flyer, believe it or not. Because we have a lot more responsibility. We're usually doing it around buildings, around people. You can't fly over people, as we all know. The rules, that's why I say if you're going to even think about doing that 107, there's a lot of studying to do before you do that. So I think the farther you get into this, the more you read within the FAA stuff, you'll probably have a better understanding. They've got a really great outreach program to actually help the drone pilots rather than to hinder us. But you have to understand their reasoning behind it and be able to follow their reasoning and follow their rules. You might find it easier once you understand more of that.
Heck, drones are dangerous. I mean, you got 4 spinning blades that they
Right.
get near people. That's I never understood why they don't have more guards. I know you can get guards for them,
Yeah, but that even won't even do it. It's about the kinetic energy really is what it comes down to. So
yeah,
once you get into the 107 stuff and you learn about that, and they're still working on some of these rules to make it more possible for us to fly over people. But my little 2-pound drone or your little 2-pound drone at 400 feet, if the propellers stop, you think about what the mass energy is coming down and how much damage that could do to somebody.
Yep.
So even the propeller guards wouldn't help that. It's
nope, that's like a brick falling out of the sky. It's
exactly
pretty dangerous. So I understand why they do it. And some of the rules, I've been listening on YouTube with some of the rules, and it's sort of interesting. You can cross a highway and go over cars if you're trying to get to another point, and that's legal, but you can't hover over the highway and video it because you can't go over cars, but you can cross over them if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can traverse it as long as you have forward motion. You can do that. You're right, Jeff.
Yeah.
But, you cannot hover over it. And again, the hovering gets to, well, if you're moving, chances are the drone, even if it stops, it's going to keep moving.
Keep moving.
If you're hovering,
And
it's
just- Yep, just think what a drone would do to a car if it hit a car, man.
There's pictures on that where it went through the windshield and that. There's so many rules and regulations. It's really a headache and that to get your license for that. But I think it's somewhat good to do it. And it's like you almost should have insurance too to just cover you because you don't want to have a lawsuit. God forbid something awful to happen.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly, Clint. So when I do commercial jobs, depending on what it is and where it's at, I buy insurance on a flight per flight basis. I do have insurance rider within my own business insurance also regarding the drone, just for that reason. I'll tell you, there was an incident up in Canada within the last couple of weeks where a police department was flying a drone in an area and it hit a small plane and did an enormous amount of damage to that little plane. The plane, fortunately, was able to land safely, but when they looked at the damage that drone did, it's shocking how a little device could do that much damage to that plane. The plane had to be taken out of service until they get the repairs done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian commented in the chat that he said, I find drones very annoying when flying around me. And I wanted to say that I do too, but a couple things. I have some wings for my drone that I ordered separately that are low noise wings. I haven't used them yet to see the difference, but also if I get above 50 feet or so, up to 100 feet, you can't hear it anymore. Most of the time the takeoff and landing is louder than the actual drone flying through the air.
And the newer drones, and you're right, they do have some low noise propellers now for a lot of them. The newer ones aren't anywhere near as bad. So if you're flying one of the old Phantoms or something like that, yeah, you might just well be flying a helicopter. They're pretty loud, but the newer ones, they've really greatly reduced the noise pollution from them.
Yeah, we heard it when we were in the Smokies. We had a guy in the Blue Ridge area flying where I'm pretty sure he was flying illegally. And it was really annoying while he was flying the thing over us and around us for like half an hour. And it got to the point you wish you had a gun and could shoot the dumb thing down because it just, sounded like a little weed whacker running.
Wow.
And I find them annoying. I know I'd like to fly one myself, but I do find them when they're around me very annoying. So, but yeah, I haven't listened to new ones, so who knows?
So shooting them out of the sky is a big no-no. That is a federal
Yeah, I
offense.
know it. You can't do any of that stuff if they're flying around you. Although, I still wonder why it's that illegal if they're flying over your own property and you don't want them there.
If they're traversing your property again, if they're directly
Yeah.
over your property and they're just flying over. It's no different than an airplane or a helicopter flying over your property. The FAA has authority over the airspace. The
Right.
airspace is anything above us, and but if they come over your property and they hover, well, now you have a little case. Not a case enough to say I could shoot this thing out of the sky, because that is a federal offense. But now you can call law enforcement and say, hey. And so one of the things that's coming, and it won't be fully implemented until I think it's September of 2023, but it's remote ID, and the remote ID will allow law enforcement to know where you're at any given. So if you're flying in an area, they won't know who you are, but they'll be able to pinpoint where you're at flying. So if there is a complaint, then they got a way to come and find you and talk to you. So that is coming. So that might help some of those nuisance flyers that don't want to pay attention to the rules. But that is one thing that is going to be implemented, like I say, by September 23.
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of YouTube stuff on it just to learn, and it's
Well,
been interesting.
Getting back to the photography part of it, one of the biggest difficulties I'm having is, well, with learning to fly, but also learning to scale down from a DSLR to a camera that's more like a point and click camera or a cell phone camera.
But it's not, though. I mean, your drone is capable of fully manually shooting pictures. You could do, everything you can do on a DSLR.
Yeah,
But what I found, quite frankly, is shooting automatic with these things give you some phenomenal images. The calculations built into it for processing are amazing.
yeah. I have learned where to go and to change it, but it's kind of hard to change the shutter speed and everything while you're flying, and it's kind of like doing that on a cell phone. I equate it with my cell phone, although it's a Hasselblad camera on there,
Yep.
and so it's a much better quality camera.
I was going to say that the chip on that drone is awfully good. It's as good as any DSLR Micro Four Thirds chip, because it's that big of a chip on there.
But it doesn't
So-
have the dynamic range of a DSLR. That's one thing I'm struggling with. I'm so used to
Oh,
higher
okay.
dynamic
Well,
range.
yeah.
On my
It all
Canon.
depends. Yeah, it depends on the DSLR that you have. Some have wider dynamic range than others. But that Hasselblad chip, from what I heard about at least, it's supposed to be a pretty darn good chip. But yeah, you may have to do more stuff. I guess you can even do HDR with it. So
And you can, like my background here, this is shot from my backyard looking north across, or looking, west across the village here, but
he's flying in his backyard.
A drone reenactment.
of course, processing that, post-processing it made a big difference in the color, but there's nothing that I haven't found yet that, in post-processing that I can't take care of. So are you shooting in RAW or just in JPEG, Drama?
I'm shooting raw.
Which
I've been processing them in Lightroom and Photoshop quite a bit. I've noticed that when I bring them in, import them into Photoshop, this time of year, there's a lot of green trees around, and it pops in when it puts I guess it's putting in Lightroom, putting the profile for the Hasselblad on there, but it comes in and it's really pretty green trees, and all of a sudden it pops in with a color and it's like not so green, it's more yellow, and I'm not sure how to control that in Lightroom.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that there is a green bias to the images in general off of my drone. So I tend to, in Luminar, I just tend to go into color and then do reduce, what do they call that? Reduce color, or whatever, to bring out, to kind of correct the color automatically.
Yeah.
But there is a green bias to them.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to control the profile in Lightroom. I've noticed it to a lesser degree with my Canon DSLR, that when I import pictures and then I click on it and look at it, it quickly pops to a little bit different color, but it's quite dramatic with the Hasselblad. And I'm actually like, I liked it better before. And I'm not sure, it's so dramatic, I'm not sure what sliders to get back. But if I could stop it from doing that, if anyone knows how to do that in
I
Lightroom.
refer to Jeff.
Yeah, in Lightroom, it's actually pretty simple. Well, here, let me show you. It's probably easier to show than it is to, let's see, that desktop. So in Lightroom under Develop, if you go up to your profile here, where it says Profile, you've got
Yeah.
all the different choices, plus you would have the Hasselblad choice or whatever. But I would say, if anything, try Adobe Landscape or Adobe Color, or
I've done
even
that. I've done that,
standard.
but it doesn't set it back to the way that it was when it first came in.
Okay. Let's see. You could. Well, I wonder what it's. Yeah, you might check under the browse section. There is a camera matching one set up. I keep mine just on the Adobe RAW settings. That there's 7 of them. But if you do the camera matching ones, they've got a lot of different setups. Where's my camera matching? There we go. So then you could take a look and see, like, here's my landscape or my flat. And these are the Nikon settings that my Nikon camera would have that I can set it to. And they've got all sorts of, I guess I've got 31 different settings. A lot of these I would never use, but
But those are presets, and so.
no,
is-
these are LUTs designed to match with the camera. So this would be, if you set the camera, you can set in the camera settings usually. I don't know on the drones, but on my Nikon camera, I can set it for flat, landscape, neutral, vivid. And these are camera LUTs. It's just, it's not a preset. It's just a,
Yeah,
setting.
I set that, yeah, I can set that in my camera too, and I set it usually to stand, I think there's a standard.
right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I just leave it set to standard, but there's something, this is a little bit different than what I'm talking about of when it pops in when I first import the file. And like I said, I've seen this with my Canon camera, my DSLR too. I don't know what Lightroom is defining the color when it first brings it in, but then it puts a profile on it that snaps it to a little bit different color. And it, for the Canon, it improves it. And I'm
Yeah.
not sure how to control what it's saying, what Lightroom is thinking that, oh, it's this camera, therefore, or this profile, put this profile, and how I would change that.
right. It's generally defaults to one of the Adobe RAW settings when it brings it into Lightroom, unless you set something different. So that could be what it's doing.
Jeff, is
'Cause
that
the
something
Adobe-
you can just turn off and import?
Not really. It's got to come in with some color LUT. Otherwise, the Lightroom doesn't know what it should create. So generally, it comes in with just a standard. The Adobe, actually, I think it's usually Adobe Standard is the one that it normally will come in at. But it needs some color to come in at, so it knows, and a lot of times it should be defaulting to whatever the raw file was originally shot with. But that seems like maybe it's not quite doing that on yours. So,
Where do you get to, again, I'm looking at Lightroom, how did you get to that profile browser? I'm in Develop, and
Okay, where it says
Oh.
profile.
under basic, okay, profile, got it.
Yeah.
And then
And then you,
browse,
yeah, and then hit browse to get to all the different ones that are available.
yeah, that's, actually, I'm clicking on them and that, it looks like, yeah, that's changing quite a bit. I still don't see the
Yeah.
one that I saw when I first looked at the picture when it was importing. And-
Right. Take a
and-
look and see if you've got one that says camera matching, and that should be the Hasselblad ones, because it should look up whatever camera you have, and then it will bring up however many that the camera may have, and it may not have any. I don't know the preferences that you can set in the camera settings on the drone.
That's hard. Like what you're saying is, we're comparing, a camera to a drone. I'm like, yeah, they're somewhat similar, but in another way they're not. So I don't know what the setup would be,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's the same, but it's a matter of getting into the preferences in the drone, I believe, because it's a Micro Four Thirds sensor in that in the drone that she has.
Okay, that's pretty
So-
good then.
That's a pretty good sensor. So yeah, you should be able to get some pretty good stuff out of it, but it might be a matter of finding the right profile to work with that
Yeah,
particular
Jeff,
drone.
I was gonna say, I think there's a way that you can set Lightroom up to import with a certain profile. So if you want all your photos to be camera standard, I think there's a way that you can set it up to do
Yeah,
that.
I think if nothing else, you could do that as a preset, and then use the preset when you import the images. And I know that would be one way that I can think of. I'm not sure. Let me take a look once. You got apply during import. Well, you've got a bunch of different. Oh, these are all the presets that I have created. Yeah. And I do usually, I have presets for different things. Like when I'm shooting at Road America, I have a Road America preset that does certain things to the image. And that would include a profile. So you could create a preset in the develop module with how you want to do some basic adjustments. I have on my standard one, and I think that's what this D800 Vivid was, probably did a profile adjustment, and I think it also did a number of other things. But that's, I think, the only place. I'm pretty sure, though, that's how you could do it.
Yeah, maybe that's what I did, Jeff. I've got all
Yeah.
mine set up to do the Nikon standard camera one.
Yeah. So you could create a preset in the develop module.
Yeah, I have none listed in my import there. And that's why I'm confused about when I see it come in, and with the Hasselblad, it takes a couple seconds when I click on the picture to actually change color. So it's like it's reading it in one and then putting a preset on it.
Well, it's reading the JPEG that's in the raw file, so that's what it generates on in Lightroom. Is it doesn't create a new preview? It's using the embedded preview in the raw file, and so that's where you're getting it. And then it's adding whatever profile is popping up in Lightroom. So first it reads the JPEG, then it adds that profile to it. So
that's
if you create a preset, you could then use the profile that you would like it to use, and any other basic settings. That's what I tend to do. Is the way that I create that is I go in here and I would do Adobe Vivid, because I like vivid colors, of course. I leave most of this stuff at 0. Come on. I'm not sure why some of this won't reset, but
Jeff, I can tell you, just doing a quick little reading on one of the Mavic forums, you're absolutely exactly right what you just said, because that's specifically what they just said in this article.
okay. So, you know, if you set your profile up to whatever you'd want, any adjustments here, what I generally have done is I do always like about 25 clarity and about 20 dehaze on all my images. And if I'm really crazy, sometimes I do about 10 in vibrance. I get that set up, and then you can go over to your presets, click plus and create a preset, and then just, you know, use it as,
Yeah, I'm
call
gonna
it whatever you want.
using that more. That's
And-
good information, Jeffrey, about the JPEG. I was wondering when it first comes in, where is it getting that information? Is
Yeah, it
it's a
creates a
JPEG.
medium. Yeah, it creates a medium size. All raw files create a medium sized JPEG. And then just have whatever checked here. Now, the other things that I usually have set on my preset is the lens corrections. Just so that I can turn that part on so that it automatically applies the remove chromatic aberrations and enable a profile. I'm not sure if, let's see, Hasselblad.
Yeah,
It's under
Yeah.
DJI. above, too.
yeah, DJI.
Yeah, it'd be under the DJI,
But
wouldn't
they
it?
don't list that particular drone. I Googled it, and Marty, you might be able to provide some information about that, but they said on the DJI website that the lens corrections have already been incorporated into Lightroom for the
Yeah.
Mavic.
That might be the top thing that
It's-
DJI Pro. I
I
don't
know.
use
Mavic-
Lightroom, so I can't really answer that, but I'm guessing
Yeah.
that's what it is right there.
But they said at DJI that Adobe's not making one for the Mavic Mavic 2 Pro because it's been automatically incorporated in Lightroom.
Right, which is probably
Oh,
what that
okay.
setting right there is.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's this Mavic Pro FC 220.
I've tried all of them, even the Hasselblad, and I actually don't like it just seems to stretch out the corners a little bit rather than do a nice adjustment.
Oh, okay.
Still
Yeah,
leaves
well,
the
and
horizon curved and, doesn't seem to correct the horizon very much. So I've noticed that I've liked the chromatic aberration on it. I have seen some chromatic aberration on the edges of some of my pictures, but the profile
Sure.
correction doesn't seem.
then if it's not working for you, then turn it off, because then you can manually do it, which would work just as well. But manually you can't do on a preset, but you could get all this other stuff set up and then do a preset so that when you import it, it's all done for you automatically. And I do that a lot. I have presets for different things that I shoot. And if I find I'm doing something the same way, I create the preset. So
Yeah, I'm gonna start using presets. I was surprised about what they said on the DJI website, because I didn't know that Adobe was making it unnecessary to do
yeah,
profile lens corrections for some cameras.
yeah,
So
that's
That's kind of surprising.
interesting to know.
But there's a little information icon on that panel where you pick the camera, and when I clicked on it, it said it's already been incorporated into the profile. I would think that maybe the Adobe's going to start doing that with all cameras and all lenses, rather than having you pick your particular camera and lens.
Yeah, interesting.
Maybe it's something that's really new, and because this is a brand new camera, brand new drone.
Yeah, if it's, it takes Adobe 3 or 4 months before they can get all that information in. You know, they have to figure it out because Hasselblad and all these camera companies don't tell them how to work their raw files. Adobe has to do it backwards, and I'm not sure why the camera companies can't just say, here's how our raw files work, because you know, it'd be to Nikon, Canon, Sony's advantage if they said this is how their files work.
Maybe,
Other
maybe
than
not. Probably proprietary stuff that they don't want to let out either. But
Right, yeah,
like you said, working backwards, they're going to figure it out anyway.
yeah, yeah.
Does anyone here have a new camera like a Canon R5 or something that's using that? That I'm kind of wondering now
Ray
if the
does.
newer cameras have that in Lightroom, that where it's automatically adjusted for the lens and the camera.
Ray
I know
has.
my Olympuses are. I have Olympus, you know, I
You have
use
to use the latest Lightroom. The old version doesn't support even the format of the import.
and it does for my Olympus 4/3. I've all the professional lenses. And if I go to do a lens correction, it says it's been applied already.
Okay, so
Because
it does-
I format is a CR3, it's not CR2. So they even don't allow you to import to Lightroom. You have to use the new latest version, especially CC version.
yeah,
Right,
CC
yeah.
is the one that has all the newest stuff. So that's a new feature that's being incorporated into Lightroom. That because I have a Canon 5D that's 3 or 4 years old, I have to go and do the correction for the lenses, and the lenses are older, most of them.
Yeah.
A couple of them are newer than that, but yeah, apparently Adobe's starting to incorporate that automatically.
Yeah, they keep adding new stuff to Lightroom, and
That's right.
I hadn't realized some of that was automatic, but
That's new.
Because the format of the CR5 output format is limited. The old version, like the Lightroom 4.3, 4.4, it doesn't support.
right.
Well, that's
So-
something that they would have to start working with the camera companies for to get that information to apply it automatically.
Well, that's the game the Adobe Play and the Canon Play. They always want you update to new software.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That's
what
the-
DxO is always noted for that.
Yeah. Well,
Lens
they
profiles.
all the companies have to backward engineer the raw files to figure out how they work. And I never understood why the camera companies don't just, other than they want you to use, and I got to admit, when I do use Nikon's raw converter and stuff, it's got a lot different and better control of the image than what even Lightroom does. It's just too complicated to go back and forth between Nikon software and Lightroom and Photoshop software, so I stick with Lightroom. But it's amazing the difference that you can see if you use the camera company's own software.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it sounds
I use a software called Capture One. My background is exactly Capture One added, the CR5, and which support any brand of the camera, even include the medium format, like Phase 1, like the Hasselblad, all of that they can support, but it's very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it
It's
sounds
another.
like
It's yeah.
It sounds like this is the first step in the camera companies working together to automatically apply that lens profile for the cameras,
Yeah.
for the newer cameras.
Yeah, it takes them a while to get it, so that's the crazy part. And there's so many lenses and so many camera combinations that gets to be a little hard as well. But yeah, there's a lot of Capture One's another good platform. I gotta admit, I'm a Lightroom guy, so although I play with Luminar,
Yeah, aluminum is
We-
good. Yeah, as well.
Oh, and on
Yeah.
One Photo Raw is another one that I know keeps up with profiles and whatnot, but I'm sure they're doing the same thing as,
Yep.
you know, they work backwards and make it work because they don't have every new camera out as soon as it's out either. It takes them a while for them to get added, but I know in updates, that's always one of the things included in updates is support for and whatever those new cameras are.
Yep. Yeah, Lightroom just had an update a couple days ago, and it was mainly for just cameras that they had updated for probably the new R5. I can't see if I can tell here.
Guys, with AI and the processing power today, I don't think it's, you know, maybe years ago it was very, very difficult. But I think Adobe has some pretty good algorithms for going through and analyzing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they all
analyzing
do.
raw files.
Yeah, I think they all do, Jerry. It's a really good point. I don't know. I mean, personally, I don't shoot RAW, so I never really worry about it. I've been shooting JPEGs forever and never have a problem getting what I want out of a file, but that's just me. That's, you know, I mean, everybody makes their own workflow there, but you're right. This AI stuff, it takes care of a lot of the issues right away.
I
Yeah.
got my Canon my 5D Mark IV before it came on the market, and it was about 4 years ago, I think, in September of that year. They gave it to me early, and I took pictures and found out I couldn't process them in Lightroom and Photoshop. It took about 2 or 3 months before they released the version that handled that camera, and I had to go into the Canon software to be able to process my pictures. Was painful, but yeah, it was 2 or 3 months before they
Yep.
came out with the.
Yeah, that's usually what it takes. It's Adobe does it about every 4 to 6 weeks. They seem to have an update now. So, and usually most of the updates are just camera updates for new camera stuff and some bug fixes that they have. So we'll be talking a little bit about some of the Lightroom updates and Photoshop updates in the next hour, along with Boris Effects. So anybody else have any questions? People watching.
This is Ray. I was introduced by Clinton, which is he is on the panel right now. So
Yeah. Welcome.
I'm working for Komatsu and take a lot of pictures around Wisconsin, and also I pretty much the dedicated photographer for the Komatsu events, any Komatsu and internal events, and also for which are original called Joy Global or Harnesphere, the company for mining equipment. I also joined Clinton, take the air show every year, and also take care the photo for the Pitted Ice Center, any computation over there, and some magazine like the Air Show magazine. We contributed some photo for there. Yeah, I would like to join you guys, and eventually we'll go to retirement and with join maybe full time with you guys. Yeah, I got equipment
welcome.
like the R5 and also Phase 1 IQ4, which is a mid format of the camera. So
Where are you located, Ray?
Oak Creek, Wisconsin.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
mate.
I have full equipment, the studio with all of the per photo, stroke lights, and welcome. We can exchange information and help each other eventually, and we can do some events together.
Well,
That'd
that's
be
why
cool.
we're all here.
Yeah, well, welcome, and
Thank you, Jeff.
we're happy to have you here, and happy to use any information you have. That's what this panel is for, is to help other people out. And
And he's
Yeah.
already
I got the-
contributing.
yeah,
I just bought the Premiere, Adobe Premiere for the. I'll try to get into edit the video, process and to
oh, okay.
just start. But I already then watch out and play around. It's very interesting. A lot of photographer, gradually migrated to video photographer.
Yep.
That's
And
the trend.
we're hoping to start getting into more of that stuff. We got a couple people here that shoot video. I'm in the process of learning Final Cut Pro for my video stuff. So
For Apple,
but
from Apple.
I got sort of delayed on working on that stuff. I've done some stuff in Premiere, but they're all sort of complicated. So I sort of like Final Cut's a little easier, but still a lot of tricks to it. But
There's a lot of information on that. I use I think it's Black Magic. It's that yeah, it's part
Yeah.
of that
Resolve.
17 Studio 17 or
yeah, it's
But do
probably
you just-
Resolve.
Resolve.
that-
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Resolve.
it's a Blackmagic has a free version, and then they have a paid version for $300,
I have the
or if you buy a Blackmagic camera, you get that for free. But
So do you have use the same software for time lapse? I've kind of been burned in my trip to Africa and shooting video, and I couldn't get still shots out of it that I wanted, and I kind of stopped shooting video. But I have been interested in getting into some time lapse photography. Do you use the same software for that?
Yes. Most likely, you can do Premiere and Final Cut, whatever. You can input all of that photos, collection of photos, and speed up, and you can batch process. You can batch process one single photo, and then synchronize all of the color tone, all of the that's the exact tool you should use.
yeah, that works, and you can also use Photoshop for that.
Yeah.
Photoshop has for video. I found for time lapses, Photoshop does a nice job of putting it together as a video under their motion setup. That's something that we could probably get into one of these days.
I know
Because
the
time lapse can be interesting.
the next iteration, the next version of On1 Photo Raw, they're introducing a feature for that as well. And kind of like what Ray was saying, where you process one and you just kind of batch it to the rest of them.
Yeah.
I have a question for people panel here. People just complain my picture, especially portrait, is too sharp. They ask me put back the like a black mist, filter, to make the people's face a little smooth. Does any people has this problem before? They just complain my picture is too sharp.
Okay.
Are they kind of corporate head and shoulder pictures, or what are they? What kind of portraits are they, Ray?
All of difference, because I use the like a medium format, like the Phase 1. So
Yeah.
all of even your they can count your
Yeah, or yeah.
So people just complain my picture is too sharp. So right now I try to put back the black Mr. Pro filter. Try
Well,
to soften that
You
skin.
might want to look at sharpening that's going on. It may not be that the picture is, usually when judges say it's over sharpened, it has a crunchy feel that Photoshop or Lightroom.
I don't think this is over sharpened. That's just the capabilities of that Phase 1 camera. It's the files are so big and so well defined that they're just very sharp images. That's the advantage to shooting that format.
But for
Yeah.
product shot, that makes sense. But most people, especially like our age, they want to scan a little smooth, instead of
Well,
Yeah.
Is the entire photo sharp? A lot of times with the portraits, they want the background to be soft. Are you shooting these pictures that are?
I specifically talk about the face, you know, the portrait face. People.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
surprised that they're too sharp.
Oh, it's hard when you got a 150 megapixel camera.
Yeah, those high megapixel cameras. Ray, do you use Photoshop at all?
No,
Or you
I use the Capture One Lightroom because the Capture One is a little combination of the Lightroom and Photoshop.
Right,
Bit,
right.
Because they can apply the layer, they can apply difference you know, like the sort of feature and Photoshop has, but not all
Yeah,
of that, but a little bit. You know.
You might try dropping like the mid-tone contrast range a little bit. That will usually soften
Good
up.
idea. That's a good idea.
I know in Lightroom it would be clarity. I'm not sure what it is in Capture One, but if you drop that mid-tone contrast, that generally will soften everything slightly because we do the opposite to sharpen everything up. There's other techniques in Photoshop, you
Have
know,
you ever
just
used
even a
frequency-
slight blur filter would probably help.
Have you ever used frequency separation for those images? Have you?
I didn't.
Frequency separation is a technique that photographers, some of the professional portrait photographers are using, where it's separated out the color and the detail of the image into two different layers in Photoshop. And then you soften the color and it takes away information like pores and stuff like that you don't want to show. It makes the picture look softer. You might want to investigate that, frequency separation.
Yeah, I just got I tried very interesting to try the filter they call black mist filter. You know,
Black
after
mist?
that I say what's going on. It's
Ah.
a little soft.
Did you say black mist?
Yeah, I try if that little help to soften the skin or not.
Yeah, and there might be plugins that you could use. I'm not a good Capture One person. I know about it. I used to use it a long time ago. Haven't anymore. But if you can use a plugin like Nik Filters or something like that, they'll have some soft filters built in that you could probably soften up.
Yep.
Especially if you can create a mask with it so that you can keep the eyes sharp and the nose and mouth sharp, but, you know, turn down the skin tones. That would probably be good.
Well, hopefully that'll be a good start for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always tricky. That's the trouble. I had that problem when I used to shoot portraits with my D850. It just had too many megapixels, and I mean, you could see every pore on the face, and you had to spend more time softening than you did trying to get the sharp pictures. So that's some the problem with good quality camera equipment. So
Yeah.
any other questions? We've got a few minutes before we hit the next hour.
There was one, I think, was someone looking for a Nik software, I think. Comments.
Oh yeah. I can help Steve Herbert. I can help you with Nik software. You got any specific questions on it?
Well,
I
what's
use it
been
often
happening
enough.
is that I'm firing up a new computer, and it's even happening on my laptop when I'm into Lightroom and I want to photo edit into Nik software. If I'm not picking the raw file, if I pick say the DNG or the JPEG, it freezes up my computer and I can't do anything. And I have to power down and everything and restart everything for it to get out of it. And it never did that before. It just seems like something's happened in the last several months. Maybe it's Nik software or Adobe. I'm not sure which. I was going to just download all the Nik's, reload all my Nik software and see if that helps it or not.
I've had some problems with, I have a Cronus backup, and they check for they have a lot of security built into that. And every once in a while, it will freeze my computer up because it thinks it detects injection software. That a file is trying to be injected with malware.
Yeah.
And it'll freeze my computer up.
I've never had that happen before. I'm using Macs, and but
Yeah. Is it newer Nick software? Or is it their older version?
it seemed like when they offered the idea where I paid, I don't know, was $25 or whatever it was to get the newest version of it. After I've downloaded that, it seems like it's just not, I don't know, it's just not playing nice.
So you said you're going on to a new computer. Did you get a new M1 or is it just an Intel based, or what did you get?
It's an Intel based. I got this before the M1s came out for my desktop.
Okay.
But my laptop that's even before that. This is probably about a year old laptop I have. So, and it's doing it on both of them. So
it's doing it on both.
But
Every now and then I have Nick not pop up the picture, and I just have to do it a second time to get it to work. Yeah, I guess what I would say would be to reload the Nick software. You might have to reload Lightroom software as well.
and because there's always updates with Lightroom, but in the process of doing that, do you take off the Nick software first and remove it, then load it back in, or you just load in the new?
Yeah, I would try first one. I would, because Nick would be the easiest to reload. I would reload that and try that just by itself. Okay. You want to try to do this systematically so you can figure out what might be causing the problem. Right. So I would reload Nick filters first and see if that fixes it. And if it doesn't, then I would try reloading Lightroom and seeing if that would fix it. So it would mean uninstalling Lightroom and then reinstalling it again.
Yeah.
Sometimes that fixes a lot of things.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to try. And the other issue I have is when I'm with these new computer, I have the Mac Mini. I have one that's probably about 10 years old, and I bought a newer one last December with 64 gig of RAM, because the 16 gig was getting sort of not handling the processing very well, it was slow and et cetera.
Right.
So, but now I have to play the game with Adobe of shutting it off on one computer before I put it on the other, because you can only have two computers on this subscription thing. So I'm not too sure how I'm going to do that. I think I'll just have to play back and forth, shutting it down, then firing up the other one. So.
Yeah. If you log out of one computer, then you can log in on another. It's a pain, but it works. I was doing that for a while, and then it got to a pain that I just bought the photographers section so that my other two computers, and I'm just doing that for a short time. What I'm starting to do actually is I'm buying the Affinity programs and loading those on my extra computers, because you can buy them once and they last for lifetime and they're not super expensive. And where's my cursor? That's Luminar. I don't have the Affinity ones on this computer, but the Affinity programs work a lot like Photoshop. If you get the Affinity one.
And InDesign. I have opened InDesign IDML documents in Affinity, and they're pretty close to working with Photoshop at a price that, well, if they're not on sale, they're $50, but if they're on sale, they're $25. So I bought all three of them for $75 on sale at one time. So I also have a quick question when you're finished up with Hubert.
Okay, sure.
I'm fine. I was just curious. You just reaffirmed what I should do anyways. I was thinking about doing it. I just wanted somebody else to say yes or no before I start diving into this thing.
That's the first steps that I would start doing if I was having that problem.
Okay.
is just what we suggested. So,
And, okay, I'm thinking of buying a new laptop. My other Mac is 10 years old and I'm not sure whether I should get the 13-inch Mac Pro or the 16-inch Mac Pro. I know one screen is bigger, but the 13-inch has the M1 chip and the 16-inch doesn't. So I'm not going to say price is an object, but at this point, I don't really care. I'm old and it might be the last one I ever have to buy. So, you know,
I don't know. I just walk through that process. Depends on what kind of the display you already have. If you already have like a 4K, 8K display, you better just bypass that. You just use the what's called the Mac Mini. Mac Mini is the box without the display, without the keyboard.
I also have an
That's very
iMac,
cheap.
a
actually.
year and a half old, so that was pretty current, but I'm just looking for something to take with me when I go places, because I have
Okay.
a newsletter to do and I would like to make sure.
I bought the M1 based MacBook Air, which is the 13-inch, and only just I think I bought it was $8.99, which is a discount in Christmas time. So
Yeah, and I'm already looking at with what I want on it, the 13-inch is still gonna run me $2,000 to $3,000. So
it depends on how big your SSD is and your cache, the cache memory.
yeah, and I'm looking at loading it up because I have the iPad Pro and I have the programs for that on there. Of course, not enough time to get to actually use them. So I have a lot of things. I just want to make them kind of all current. And as I said, my old MacBook is 10 years, 11 years old, but
yeah,
I need to use it. So am I going to miss the extra 3 inches on the screen? Am I better off with the M1 chip?
It might
well,
be.
you're better off with the M1 chip. So I could say that.
Ellen,
Okay.
I once got rid of a laptop because it was too big. I used to buy the larger screens because I liked working on a larger screen, but it was a laptop that I carried around with me. If you're is this just gonna be carrying it from place to place, or are you gonna be traveling with it? Because it
I
would
might be traveling with it.
Yeah, so I would recommend the smaller one. I have a smaller Mac that I travel with, and it fits into backpacks better. It fits into my luggage better. And that I thought a big screen would be wonderful for pictures and stuff. And it was nice, but I ended up not carrying it with me places because it was just too big.
Well, and I've looked at both of them in a store and you're right. What happens is the other one is bigger, but everything, there's more room for the keyboard and it just seems, 13-inch. I'm happy with the iMac. What am I looking at? The iPad Pro, which is like 12 inches. And that seems fairly large. And so I was just wondering, maybe I should just go to the 13-inch because that has the M1 chip and I might be better off with that. That way I can load more stuff onto it.
Also, I had to buy a special backpack. You might check if you're thinking seriously about the 16-inch. Take in a backpack or a suitcase or wherever you're going to store it. Make sure that it'll fit. If you have to buy separate luggage just to handle your laptop, that would be a real pain.
Okay.
Well, you can always use an auxiliary screen too with your 13-inch.
Yeah.
Have a big screen at home as a monitor.
Yeah.
Wire that into HDMI, and then you get the rest of both.
The criteria you need to use is: are you edit the video or just edit the photo? If it's just photo, you.
Yeah, I'm not into video yet.
Yeah, if you edit a video,
not in my wheelhouse.
You have to get the MacBook Pro. That speed is very significant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
for photo, I think even MacBook Air is good enough. I use MacBook Air travel with me. Any picture is good enough.
But I also use InDesign and Illustrator. So I'm I'm back and forth on that. I have the whole CC suite. But the newsletter is top priority because I don't want to leave that for somebody else to finish. And I committed for another year. So.
No, and I think you're going to want the M1 chips because of their faster processing power. They're going to put the Intel chip so far behind, it's going to be, you'd have to get in the Intel chip, you'd need to go to 32 or 64 gigabytes of RAM to do the same thing that the 16 gigabyte chip in the M1 can do.
I think I was looking at 512 to start with, you know.
Oh,
so.
yeah, for the memory, but I'm talking the RAM part.
Oh,
the 16 gigabytes is as big as you can go. And for the processing power and the built-in GPU that the M1 has will render everything so much quicker that, if you can live with the 13-inch, although I am betting that in September, around the 11th, they are announcing a bunch of new products, and mainly iPhones and iPads, but I wouldn't be surprised if this fall they're going to announce a 16-inch M1. And just stay away from the Intel is what I'm hearing across the board, is that the Intel just will not be able to keep up with what the new M1 chip can do. So
it might be leaning towards the 13, but you know, just from portability standpoint, and you're right, carrying it could be a problem, and maybe it isn't the last laptop I will ever get. So.
No, and an interesting fact, if you've got a MacBook Pro, you'll be able to use that as a second screen on there if you're carrying both with you, especially when you have Monterey, the new operating system that's coming out. You'll actually be able to go with your mouse from one computer to the iPad and back again, just by dragging.
With the 13-inch, so
So with you'd have a 13-inch, and then if you had your 12-inch MacBook Pro or your iPad Pro, you'd be in really great shape screen-wise. So you could work with them together.
Thanks for saving me some money. Okay.
Yeah, and I got to admit, I like the small size. I mean, if you didn't want it portable, I would end up telling you buy a Mac Mini. But if you want portability, that new MacBook Pro 13-inch, it's going to handle anything you throw at it. And now the Lightroom and Photoshop and all that are now M1 compatible, because that was one of the last updates.
Okay, thanks.
So
Jeff, I'm in the computer software in about 39 years, and when the M1 just come out, I did a benchmark to run i7, Intel i7 and M1. It's not comparable, basically, based on the difference the application. Some of that M1 absolutely no problem. It's much better than the i7, but some i7 is the over M1. So right now at this time, sure, if you use the MacBook based system, Mac OS based system, M1 absolutely they already customized, and a lot of the dedicated design for those application, like the photographer editing or video. If you go to something else like the scientific calculation, whatever, M1 still not there. i7 is better, especially a lot of the calculation.
Okay.
On a lot of things, i7, but as they keep bringing out all the adjusting the software for the new M1s, they're getting better. That's why Lightroom works really quick. I mean, I've got a MacBook or Mac Mini that's only an 8 gigabyte of RAM and 256 SSD on it, and that sucker blazes faster than my MacBook Pro 16-inch. and can run any program quicker. And this 16-inch MacBook Pro is a 2019 with 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte solid state hard drive.
Yep.
And it puts my MacBook Pro to shame, which is just crazy for a $600 Mac Mini.
Yep.
But it's only on native programs that run natively on M1, which are not a lot of programs yet.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next step here because it's already 11:09, although we've had good conversations. Going to talk about some of the new upgrades to Lightroom and Photoshop real quick, and then I want to talk about Boris plugins. So let me share my screen here because there's not a lot that's new in Lightroom. Let's see, I just gotta come on, go away. There we go. Now I can see what I'm doing. The main thing that Lightroom
is this an active film? No.
What was that? I'm sorry.
What your display? Your display is an active film. Is that right? Oh, looks like it's a negative film. Picture.
No, it should be a positive image.
Oh, really?
It's a bunch of flowers.
Looks like the negative film.
Oh yeah, no, it's here. I'll show you a picture that's probably better. That was a bunch of just some flowers that had popped up. So
okay.
we'll use this one. But actually, I was gonna go to a different. Oh, I know where I am. Yeah, let me get to something that will work for what I want to show. I was at a sunflower farm and got a lot of sunflower shots. And to demonstrate what I want to do, let's see. Let's use this guy. So, one of the new features in Lightroom, and I just need to crop this down, and you can see that what size this image is right now. We're going to crop this in really tight. Now this was shot with a Z7 II, so it's a pretty large file size to begin with. But now I've cropped it down to something that was 8,000 pixels down to 1600 by almost 1600 square. And you can see it's a fairly sharp picture.
Yep.
I haven't processed this at all yet. I'm just going to hit auto to get some processing done, and we're going to just fix it up a little bit here to make it a little sharper. But the new feature that's in Lightroom that is really nice is if you go under Photo, you have this new one called Enhanced. And what that will do is it doubles the image resolution for your image. And it takes a little while for it to work on it. It gives you a preview here of what it's going to look like, although this is 100% magnification. And what this will do is if you hit Enhance, it will create a brand new RAW file, but with a higher resolution, and the sharpness of the new file is just amazing. And what's nice is it's something that you can do very quickly. This would be the same as if you were using Gigapixel, but you don't have to go outside of Lightroom to actually process the image, do the image, and get the magnification. Before we had to go into Photoshop to do this. Now that you can see it turned this image from 1800 to 3200. And if I zoom in, come on, takes a minute. It's still really sharp. And I can show actually the original, which would be this one. I gotta wait for the preview to, now, and this is zoomed in all that it can do at 100%. So if I go to this one at 100%, you could see how much more, and you still have that fine detail. You can still see the veins in the wings and everything, and everything's nice and sharp. So that's the new feature that's been added into Lightroom. And I think it can be something that's really handy, especially for us that shoot birds and subjects that are far away. Yeah, Hubert.
You're working strictly on RAW file, not JPEGs with this.
Right. This is on RAW file, but it would actually do it on both RAW and JPEG.
Okay.
Jeff, which lens you use?
This one, let's see, I believe.
You can go down, yeah.
Yeah, can't remember which one. This was a 28 to 300.
Oh, that's
zoom.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I wasn't sure. I actually thought that this lens was not that great, and was having problems with it with other cameras, and on the new Nikon Z7 II, it's actually working better than on my Nikon D850. And I'm very happy with something that I'm just walking around and shooting handheld. That 28 to 300 did a nice job.
Pretty good.
I mean, I didn't do a great job cropping or setting this up, but for demonstration purposes, this works pretty well. So, and that's basically the only other updates that they did in Lightroom was to add more cameras that can read RAW files. So there really hasn't been much new in Lightroom, but the added enhanced part is a really nice new feature. We're gonna try with this one. Let me just process this a little bit. Just hit auto. I'm not gonna do a great job of processing. I'm just gonna do something quick because I want to show the stuff in Photoshop yet. Just wanna go that way. Okay, so if we go into Photoshop, they have not done a lot of new stuff in Photoshop, but they have added a few things to the sky replacement. I didn't have my Photoshop running, so this is going to take a second. Let's see.
One thing I like about the high megapixel cameras, you can basically use a quarter of the picture and you can still get like a 1080 quality picture.
Yep. And now with this enhanced part, you can double that. So for shooting birds that are far away or something that's farther away, it's really going to be handy to use. Now, they've done a few things on their sky in replacement. Let's see. Hopefully, I can't remember if I updated this computer, this Photoshop or not, actually. So we'll find out in a second. All right, where'd you go? Oh, it hid the window that I need way over on a different screen behind everything else.
I've been finding that lately too with the new version releases of Photoshop, that when I bring things in from Lightroom, they pop almost off the screen for some reason. I think that's a bug.
It could be. I run with 3 different screens, so it makes it a little trickier for me, because for me it just pops on my second screen normally. This is gonna tell me real quick whether. Okay. Yeah. So you can create new sky groups, which is nice, and now you can import from images and from sky presets. So they've added, and I believe now you can import more than one sky. You can import a group of skies at one time. But what's sort of interesting for those that don't care about using your own images, you can click this Get More Skies, and what it will do, and I'll get this brought over because it's on a different screen, of course. It brings you into Adobe, and they now offer a whole bunch of skies. And as it catches up here, because I've got so much running, but you've got free skies. You can get sunsets, spectacular skies, night skies now, blue skies, storms, and it's made up from a bunch of different artists. So you've got more skies that you can actually add, that you can get right from Adobe. Although I gotta say, for me, I use all my own skies, but you can now download these sky packs right from Adobe, and all you need to be is a Creative Cloud user for that to work. So something that you can now do, which is new from Adobe. So they're slowly adding in a bunch of new stuff that you can do. The sky replacement really is working sort of nice. If you look here, I can add a nice sky. I think what I'm going to do one of these days is add just a blue sky, because I'd rather have just more of a blue sky or something white with clouds to make it. And you can move that sky around, and that would actually make the sunflower stand out a little more. You got the adjustments to the sky, so you can lighten or darken it, change its color. You could flip it. There's a lot of adjustments here, and you can adjust the brightness and do color adjustments. And then I, of course, always output it as new layers, so that you've got all the layers that you can work with right here, so that if you want to make any more adjustments, you can do that. But the sky replacement is working pretty nice. You do have to watch out here. I sort of, let's see, I need to be on that. So oh, I'm on the wrong layer. I wonder why it's not working. Would you please get off of that layer? Oh, I know what it is. I was doing stuff with auto select. So the nice part is you can adjust your layers and move stuff around. Got to get this one back. Not that it's that important, but hey, just so sky replacement has been improved. They have also added more in the neural filters for portrait stuff. So they're constantly adding more things to that neural setup. So let's go So any questions on that? There weren't a whole lot of new updates in Lightroom and Photoshop, but they keep bringing them out. So let me get to a different photo for this next bit. I've been playing with Boris Effects, which is a video effects house, but they've created a bunch of neat filters for still images. And the filter selection, and let me try to get to something that I know I have. It's a matter of where did I shoot it? Here we go. What's this one? One of these. That's gonna work. So let's go in here and have some fun. Let me do a little cropping just to get these guys a little tighter. All right, so you can get to Boris Effects through here somewhere. Where did I put them? Oh, maybe I didn't put it on here. Gotta admit, well, okay, we gotta do it through Lightroom or through Photoshop. I couldn't experiment with this because one drawback with Boris Effects is that you are you only, when you buy it, you only get a license for one computer. That is to me a big drawback because I work with two different computers, but you learn to live with it. So it's called Boris Effects, and it's called, the plugin is Optics. And it's got a lot of real special effects. And it's got some really interesting ones. It looks like it's, let me reset everything. So you've got different sections here. You've got color, which lets you just make color adjustments. You got hotspots, all sorts of different things. When you pick one section here, you've got presets, so you can get different color temperatures here. And a lot of different choices. You got levels, low contrast. They have diffusion filters, blur, chroma blurs, motion blurs, a lot of different choices, double fog. I sort of like their fog filters. They have a lot of nice, intense fog. And you can actually, if you pick one, you can get down to the very specifics of it right here. So you can adjust the color of the fog, how much fog there is. You know, besides just using the preset, this gives you some depth and then maximum depth. So you've got a lot of adjustments that you can do, the glow, the positioning if you wanted to do certain, where you can adjust where the fog mainly is just by moving around this little spot. So you've got a lot of different choices with it, and you can layer these effects one on top of the other. If you don't like an effect, you just hit the X and it gets rid of it. But what's nice is they've got a lot of different presets. I haven't explored all of them yet. I'm using it more for a lot of special effects for some of the stuff that I'm doing. But you have film effects here, cross-processing, film damage. So if you wanted sepia or movie type look, cross-processing. CSI Miami, the warm Miami look, or the cold CSI look. But you've got a lot of different effects that you can get into. So you can really have a lot of fun with this stuff. Film stock, flashing, grain.
Who makes it? This is an add-on, right? Who makes that?
Yeah, this is an add-on. It's about, I was going to look it up and I didn't get a chance, but I believe it's about $100 plug-in.
Who makes it?
Boris.
Oh, it's Boris, a company?
Yeah, so the name of the company is Boris, and the plug-in is called Optics. Let's see, do they have, can I go, let's see. Gonna see if they, they don't, but I can show it. Yeah, it doesn't have anything. But it's, I believe it's borisfx.com, if I remember right. But it's
correct, yes.
okay. Thank you. So you got grad tints. You've got different image, deblock, defog, denoise, detail, sharpen. A lot of different things. A lot of different stuff. I mean, you got warping to do stuff what lenses would normally do. So a lot of weird things to let your imagination go wild. Oops. Different light stuff. This is what I really ended up getting it for, because there's certain things that I wanted to do in some of my composite work. So you can create things like, here's an aurora, and you can create how it's going to move through the picture. I mean, this shot isn't really meant for an aurora, but just to show that you've got a lot of adjustments that you can do, and then you can adjust the parameters of it once you get in there, and do a lot of things to it. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. I actually, and we're going to get to the ones that reason I've got it, which was for lightning. That, and I sort of like their lens flares. They've got a lot of different choices for lens flare. That makes life a lot quicker than trying to create this all from scratch. But if I wanted to, most of the time we want to get rid of lens flare, but here you can put it wherever you want and then have it, you've got control of where it goes. I can do some of this in Photoshop, but I can do this so much easier in Boris FX. Stylized, if I wanted to make it look like I'm going through shutters and that. Different lighting effects, overexposed, rainbow. Can add a rainbow in there. This one I haven't tried too much yet. I used to do this in Topaz. Now it looks like I'll be able to do a lot of this stuff right from Boris FX. So if I wanted to get pinpoints of light, and I'm pretty sure that if I go into parameters, that I can drop the frequency down and the density down and the seed, try to pick out spots. So it looks like you can do quite a bit. I can adjust the size.
Can you selectively remove an area, like you can apply it to the whole picture, but then can you brush it away from a specific part of the picture? Or
Yeah,
not?
there is a mask. Let's see. Is this it? You can create masks with it. I believe there's a Yeah, there. Here's where you can do the mask. Let's see, there's a way to do the brush. I gotta admit, I've only just started working with it. Oh, that creates a new layer, just so people know. That turns the layer on and off. There was a way to do a brush. There
Sorry
is a
for
brush. I just got to figure it out again.
Yeah.
Snapshot.
The
Show
lens,
mask.
the lens flare would work out great for lighthouses.
Yep.
This makes a separate layer in Photoshop, right?
Yeah, and this is also creating a separate layer in Photoshop, but you can also, I know there's a way to do it. I just lost, here it is. Here's where I can paint it. Come on.
You have to be on a brush tool up in that top toolbar.
It's right here, gets you where you can paint.
Right, but the
And
brush
you get-
itself looks like it's up and above that that on that same line with your
Yeah.
Yeah, to the
the next line up there, Jeff, from there. Over on that same line where optics and file and all that is, there's all kinds of tools there on top.
Yeah, right here, right?
Oh, the next group up.
Group up.
Maybe your controls are hiding it. I don't know, but
Yeah, maybe that's what's going on, because I'm
on
not seeing
the same area where you have the date and your time and all that. There's
okay.
looks like there's a whole bunch of tools there too. I don't know. Maybe those are apps, not tools. I
Yeah.
guess those are apps. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
those are apps. But I know there's a brush here. I just I'm not quite sure. I've created 2 masks now. So I know I've painted with it before. I'm not sure why it's not. I know I can create a gradient.
Yeah.
There's the gradient of it. Isn't that funny? Spot, path, easy mask, I bet. I don't get why it goes
Do you
to
have
the
to click
hand.
on the mask itself to paint with it?
Well, that's what I thought. That
Actually, yeah, click that again, and you just had another set of tools up there. Maybe that was when you were in the Easy Mask.
yeah.
Yeah. See, now you got
Okay.
some more tools on
Now
top.
I got tools, but for some reason it keeps going to a hand when I go on the image.
Yeah.
Let's see, get rid of this mask. Okay, so that should be paint foreground. That's
Sorry,
weird.
yeah.
For some reason, maybe it just doesn't work with this particular filter too. Yeah, that's a little weird. I could swear that I should be able to, but as soon as I try to do anything, it just moves the image. And I've had it working before, so.
Okay.
But you can do, as you can tell, there you can create masks, and you've got a lot of different tools for what you can do with the mask. This one changes it from inverting, will invert it.
It looks like it's not selected though, the mask itself.
Yeah, I'm
If you
wondering
click
if
on it,
it's,
doesn't it put a line around it like it does in Photoshop?
yeah,
On the mask.
well, we live and learn here. Okay, that just duplicates the mask. I don't want to do that. We got to be on this layer. If you're on the mask, it creates that, so you would think that. But as soon as I go down there, well, interesting. I've had it work before, so So, well, we'll keep going here with, but you got sparkles. Now you would think that if I wanted to mask that, I could add my mask and do spot. See, now that gets, I wonder why it keeps moving it. I usually can move this stuff. Usually I can grab it and move it.
Can you either shift or command? Would that turn your thing into more of a?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you use shift and then drag it.
Right. Yeah. No matter what I try, for some reason, I don't know. I will try something else here. No, it's still just always grabbing it. That's weird.
Try clicking on your raster image again and then clicking back on the mask and see if that makes a difference. Oh, that takes it away completely. If you click
Yeah,
back
that
on
takes
the
it
mask,
away from the mask, but for some reason, see, now I should be able to move this.
Right. Yeah, you did it earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that before, and for some reason, I'm stuck in just a hand.
what's that normal above the mask, the drop down?
This is blending mode, so you can
Oh, okay.
go to darken and. Oh, that's sort of weird. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Because I've been able to do a lot, but you got a lot of different. We'll just keep going with what I can do here, and
Jeff,
So
up
for
on
some-
up above where the little crosshairs are, it's highlighted in blue right now.
yeah, maybe that's what it
turned on?
is. Yeah. Okay. Good catch. Now I can move things. So now let's see if I can do a mask. Let's do a spot mask. Yep. I bet you that was it, because now I can move that spot mask around.
You can put multiple masks too, huh? That's something you
Yeah,
can't.
you can do as
Photoshop.
many masks as you want. Let me put this back to normal. Let's get to something more like this one. So then if I invert that spot mask so that now you just get the stars on the outside, and I can actually move that mask around. That was a good catch, Marty. Thanks. Could not figure out why it wasn't working right. And if I go to paint, that's then, yep, then I get a brush that looks like I can adjust the size, and then you've got, it looks like you've got different adjustments here that I should be able to paint out. Yeah, you can see where it's painting here. If I get rid of that mask, then I'm painting in the stars wherever I would want.
If you inverted it, it'd show the other way. Yeah.
Right. So I can paint in. So that gives you nice control. I'm gonna dump that layer. So render has some nice ones in it. You've got clouds that have some nice things, blood rain. And the nice part with a lot of this stuff are even adding stars to it. But it's got a lot of interesting different effects that you don't see in a lot of the plugins that we use. Now, I will be the first one to say I have absolutely no idea in Wacko competitions what you could and could not use in this plugin. I will leave that up to Ken and the chair of the competition committee to decide what's going to be allowable and what isn't. But I sort of like, here you can add a moon. And they have a lot of different moons: blood moon, cartoon moon, full moon, even the lunar surface, all sorts of different ones. I found that sort of interesting. The one that I thought would be fun here is that you got the muzzle flash that you could actually put, say, at the end of his pike, and you can turn it.
Can you change the temperature of that at all?
I believe so. You would go under parameters, and you can change the color of it.
Yep.
So I think I'd make it more of a red.
Yeah, that's the
Color.
other thing. It was just not quite. Having captured that in real life, well, that might be a little too red, but
Yeah, that's a little too heavy, I guess. Hey, it's a red pike, so it needs to be sort of a brighter color muzzle flash coming out of the end of it, right?
real hot.
But
Real hot.
you can adjust it either with the sliders, or you can actually turn it, using the different wheels here that they have. So you can get it pretty well the way you'd want it and where you want it. You can change the length of the blast and the frequency and a lot of different things here. So that can be nice and handy. The one that I sort of like too is the lightning. You can have it start wherever you want. Really have control of where it's going. I like this capability of being able to do lightning wherever you'd want.
Can you put branches on it?
Yep. You can add a number of bolts. This is one bolt. You can add multiple bolts. You can vary the endpoint so you could break it out. You can change the bolt width. Vary the width if you want to. Wiggle the start more. I mean, this has the best control I've ever seen on lightning. Can add different branches. Let's drop the number of bolts down. The branch angles, the width. So you've got complete control of this lightning, even the colors of it, where it starts and how it starts. And so you've got a lot of control with this stuff. So it's really a nice plug-in if you're going to do want to do special effects, and that's really what this plug-in is good for. So you got muzzle flash, you've got night sky that you can add in. Not sure this one is frankly Zappa. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff in here that you can really have some fun with your images. And I found it, I fell in love with it right away and ended up buying it. So, I mean, I think you can do a lot with this particular plugin. But it's crazy stuff. It's not normal. Here's just like, you could probably have this coming right out of him. I played around with this with a lot of different stuff. Oh, that's a good one. You could have that coming right out of his head. But a lot of different things that could make for interesting pictures. I'm doing a bunch of space pictures that I wanted to be able to add special effects to, and that's where I thought of this program. You've got a lot more here. There's different stylized stuff where you can turn it into a cartoon, crosshatch painting. A lot of this stuff is stuff that I was using multiple programs for. I'd be doing Topaz for some of it, using another plugin for some of it. Now I've got everything sort of in one plugin. I don't use this plugin often, but you can see there's a lot of different things that you could do. How about poor TV? X-rays. There's a weird one. Or even a kaleidoscope.
What's kind of cool is you can add to favorites, it looks like, too.
Yeah, you can pick your favorites. I sort of like this. This may end up being nice for making different backgrounds for stuff. I actually sort of like that, and I like that. That could be an interesting background. So I thought I'm just starting to play with this. I haven't actually gotten through the whole thing. As you can tell, I had problems here, but it's a well-designed tool. Sometimes I haven't quite figured out how you could use it all completely, but looks like paint. Okay. Be easier with my Wacom tablet, actually, but you can see you can do some interesting stuff with it. So Ken, do you think, is this allowed just in open? I know it's not allowed in the simple open.
I don't know, Jeff.
See what we're up against? We started that new section and changed all the wacko rules, and then you got this stuff that comes along and messes you up completely. I mean, I think would be allowable. A lot of this would be allowable in the standard open wacko category, but to be honest, I can't tell you for sure. We'll have to. I'll have to find out from the wacko people.
I
You
would
have to
think
have
that
an
if you're-
artistic section.
Yeah, it would be in the creative section that we have once every 4 or 5 years. Regular open, some of this would be allowed, some of it wouldn't, but I'm not sure what would and wouldn't be. But
Well, even for the creative section, I would think that it would have to be all your own picture, right? You started with that pattern.
I started with my own picture, and what this is doing is creating a kaleidoscope, which is my own image, but just doing stuff to it. The lightning and some of that stuff we allow, at least with brushes and things. So it's hard to know, but not everything is a wacko competition. So I do a lot of stuff that's outside of wacko, and some of this I would not be putting in wacko or anything in PSA, but it's a fun plugin. It's got a lot of capabilities, and I just thought it was worth showing to everybody since I spent the money on it. I believe it's around $100.
It's an annual subscription, though. It looks like. I mean, there is a $149. It says permanent license $149 includes 12 months of free upgrades and support, but everything else is a subscription price on here.
Yeah. And that could be what I did. I can't remember how I bought it. If I did a 1-year subscription.
Yeah, there's a little savings to do that. It's either $9 a month or $99 a year.
Yeah, I think that's what I did, because by the time you look at the 149, you buy it once, but then when they bring out new stuff a year and a half later, you end up having to upgrade for another 50, 75 bucks. So you might as well do the subscription, and then if you get tired of it and find you don't use it, you could stop the subscription. So that's how subscriptions are starting to get. But
is that
so
save
that-
as or is it export?
it saves it as a file, as a layer. I'll save this just the way it is. So it saves it as a, I always make a duplicate layer when I do these filters. So that way I could also, do a layer mask and do more. So if I wanted to, fix it a little bit more, I could do that by, let's see, just going in and getting rid of some of it. So you could control it depending on how you want to do that. But it's a fun little plug-in. Not cheap, that's for sure, but it can do enough different things that it can be worthwhile. So.
Well, before we go, Jeff, I've been texting back and forth with my friend Linda, she's the reason I'm in drones, but her friend Donnie said, yeah, he'd be happy to talk to us. So maybe we can look at that for the October meeting.
Okay.
This end of
Sure.
September meeting, I'll be on my way over in South Dakota already. So
Yeah. So you think October would work, or would
I'll
you?
ask them, but I don't see why not. I'll check with them.
Yeah, because I know you guys. Well, you'll be back from Photo Festival, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of October,
Yeah,
Oh, and I was gonna
don't do
mention to
September.
everybody, we have the Birds of Prey photo shoot that's coming up in 2 weeks. Tickets are still available if you haven't already signed up. It's $100 to get in. We have 15 different birds of prey that we're photographing, so about 15 birds. So I wanted to mention that. And Dave Cross is running another Photoshop conference coming up in October. If you're looking to learn more about Photoshop and Lightroom, that's also happening next month. Plus the Photo Festival for those PSA people that are hopefully going. Who knows? It may still get canceled.
I don't know. I think we're into it too far now, but I know we've got next week or so, we've got some meetings coming up regarding it. So yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. That if that Delta variant keeps getting worse.
Bring your hazmat suit.
Yeah, if you do the drone session, don't do it in September. I won't be here. I'll be in Europe.
Yeah, I'll be out, hopefully out in South Dakota. So it'll be definitely October, if not, I don't know about November, because then you got Thanksgiving in there. So
Yeah, I didn't look to see. That's Thanksgiving weekend probably is with the November Digital Forum. So
I'm gonna shoot for October, and if not, maybe it'll be a good winter time presentation.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then let me know. I've got a couple of people that we're going to bring in. Wacko has approved for me to spend some money to pay for some speakers to come in if I have to. I've got 1 or 2 people I'm trying to get lined up right now, but I'm waiting for winter where we'll have more people showing up. So right now we didn't do bad today. We started out with 29. We still got 21 of you guys. So That's great.
Nice turnout.
Yeah, not bad for a summer Saturday.
I'm
Except
out
I
of
don't
here.
know anybody that wants to go outside and work in the 90-degree heat. So,
No, but the Packers are starting at noon.
oh, okay. So
You can take a
we
nap
better-
then.
that's why everybody's dropping off all of a sudden on the attendees. I was wondering.
That's
It's
nap
getting to
time
be
watching the
noon. They're
Packers.
gonna go watch the Packers play. So,
All
but
right. So long.
but that's about all we've got. So thanks everybody for coming. There's another good digital forum. Hope to see you guys next month, and we'll let you know what the topic's going to be. Hopefully, it can maybe be on drones because I think a lot of people are interested in that.
Not next month.
Not next
Not
month.
next, no,
Not
not
next
next month. October. September. I'm working on something else. That's right. I'm already messed up as what month it is. I'm already thinking September. October would be good. Yep.
So long, all.
You
So
know,
thanks everybody.
Really liked
Thank you,
it.
Jeff.
Right.
Good session.
Okay.
We'll see you next month.
Carrie.
I'll see you in October.